hurt Hyundai. Hyundai could have just done a light update like they did on the Hyundai Tucson, but instead they've gone all out with the new Santa Fe. So the new Santa Fe is priced all the way down for $55,000 for a front-wheel drive base model and all the way up to this all-wheel drive calligraphy model, which will cost you $75,000 before on-road costs. So you are looking at an $80,000 Hyundai once you go for a drive-away price. Now the reason I picked the top of the range calligraphy model is because this is the most impressive Santa Fe, and I wanted to show you how far the Santa Fe will go to impress you, because it's sort of like the X that went ahead and got a personality change, a wardrobe change, went to the gym hardcore and turned out something like this, where the base model is good, it's impressive, but it's a bit like someone who just went for a few runs, a few sit-ups, and maybe ate a little less pizza. But before you buy your next car, make sure you visit productreview.com.au, because there you're going to be able to read reviews from owners who have bought and lived with cars like the new Hyundai Santa Fe. And if you have something to say about your own car, you can review your own car there as well. Now the new and improved Santa Fe has also improved its diet. It's ditched the diesel and ditched the old school petrol V6, and instead it's got itself a modern day 1.6 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine paired up to a hybrid system. So this thing should be better on fuel and be better on your wallet when it comes to filling this thing up at the pump. This thing now makes a combined power output of 172 kilowatts and 367 newton meters of torque, and it sends all that power to an all-wheel drive system in this model. But if you don't need an all-wheel drive system, you can save your money and just get a front-wheel drive model. Now you should know that the servicing costs aren't too bad either, so keeping this thing on the road is actually pretty inexpensive for a very complicated system like this. So for 3 years, it's going to cost you $1,487 to service this thing every 12 months or every 10,000 kilometers, but if you want to prepay for 5 years, it will cost you $2,405, which isn't too bad for a large 7-seat SUV like this. And it's also worth noting that the warranty is 5 years unlimited kilometers, and your battery warranty is an 8-year, 160,000 kilometer warranty. You know a company means business when they give you gas struts underneath your hood, unlike some other German car companies. The Santa Fe gets a new flat badge, it gets a completely redesigned exterior, it's longer, it's wider, it's taller than the old Santa Fe, but it has shorter front and rear overhangs. Now this car's dripping in a earthy bronze matte paint, which will cost you an extra $1,000. Some other things about this car is that because it's the calligraphy, you're getting blacked out accents all around this car to make it feel and look a little bit cooler than the regular Santa Fe. You've also got yourself some active aero down the front, which is quite cool for a family SUV. So these shutters will open and close depending how much air the car needs, which is pretty intuitive, and it gives it a clean exterior look when it's all shut up. Now you're getting passive air vents around the side for your air curtains, which pretty much every car is getting nowadays to help with smoothing of air around the sides to increase efficiency. But then the biggest impressive thing on the outside is the fact that Hyundai's just gone all out and made their headlights look like the letter H to symbolize the Hyundai logo. And these LED lights look great, and they actually are very bright for night use as well, but they just look really unique and sort of help make this car look more boxy and more off-road looking. This car is also wearing black 20-inch wheels, so these are the largest wheels you can get on this car, and it's also got contrasting cladding around the wheel arches, and as you can see here, it has very boxy wheel arches, which I love the look of. I mean, check this thing out. It really does look like a reversed engineered Land Rover Discovery. My family had a Land Rover Discovery 3 for 10 years, and this thing throws me back to that era. It looks exactly the same from the side. I hate to say it, Hyundai, but it does look a lot like a Land Rover Discovery, but that's not a bad thing, because if it means we're getting more boxy SUVs as a result of that, I'm all for that, because I'm kind of sick of SUVs trying to look like sports cars. You've got keyless entry and locking here, and of course, this has Hyundai's big H logo key, which I think is a little ridiculous because it actually doesn't allow you to put the physical key inside of it. So it has to dangle off your keychain, which is a bit annoying and a little bit dangerous, because if that disconnects from your keychain, you don't have a physical key to enter your car. But it does mean you get some party tricks. So you can remote start this car, and of course, you can move this thing forwards and backwards like you can on pretty much every high-end Hyundai. Now we're getting these nice large roof rails up here too, and what I love is that this element looks like it's black plastic, but this is actually a window. So there's lots of light coming into the cabin thanks to these very large and square windows. You've also got this feature here, which is the party piece on the exterior of the new Santa Fe, which is a grab handle. I thought it was for mounting accessories like you can on the new Defender, but no, it is simply a grab handle to allow you to climb up the top and get things out of your roof box. So yeah, I guess they've done it and you have it here. Is it useful? I mean, I'll let you be the decider of that, but you have it on the new Santa Fe. Now, it's up to interpretation whether this sort of looks like a Land Rover on the outside, but come on, Hyundai. This is clearly a Range Rover steering wheel. There is no denying that. This looks identical to the dual tone wheel you could get on a Range Rover, and Hyundai's gone, thanks, we'll have that, we'll put it in here. Am I complaining about it? Absolutely not. It looks gorgeous and it makes this thing feel far from being a Hyundai, which is exactly what Hyundai wants. Even so, they removed the H off the badge in favor of the 4 dots, which symbolizes H in Morse code. Additionally, we have these giant 12-inch displays, which are a dual setup here. There's a blank spot in the middle because that's where your hand goes, and they look fantastic. And they have updated NVIDIA GPUs in them to help them work faster than before. And as you can see, this light colored interior is gorgeous. We even have suede on the roof liner. This calligraphy model comes with Bose speakers, which look great and actually sound pretty decent, but they're not the best in the market, but they are a nice upgrade. And there's heaps of H's hidden in here. If you're a Disney adult and like the idea of hidden Mickeys, this car has done the hidden Mickey thing, but it's hidden H's. There's H's everywhere. It's here on the dashboard, it's in the air vents, it's in the seats. I mean, like, it's like you're losing your mind thinking you're seeing the letter H everywhere, but you're not, because that was intentional. And talking about these seats, these are Hyundai's iconic ergonomic zero gravity seats, which are awesome. They have an Ottoman style leg rest which raises up and they tilt back on the axis to take the weight off your legs, and you really do feel like you're floating, which is great for a rest stop, or if you're just driving along and want a more relaxed driving experience, especially in traffic. They work really well for that, and they're some of my favorite seats in the industry at this price point. And then Hyundai feels the need to still include the magnetic pad here on the side, which will not hold your phone, but if you have a cute family photo or a memento that you would normally put on a fridge, you can put it inside your Hyundai Santa Fe instead. And it doesn't just stop there. There's a 6-inch screen here for your climate controls. Is it necessary? Not really, but there's so many functions here that it's easier to put it on a screen than it is to throw a whole bunch of buttons here and have a button overload. All the physical buttons are down here for your screen if you want to jump into quick menus, and obviously there's a physical volume dial, which I hate the placement of, because as the driver you want that closer to you, but your passenger princess is going to love the fact it's here on their side. You've also got a button here which says UVC. What the hell's that? Up here in the top glove compartment is a little storage area, but this is a sterilization zone. What do I mean by that? Well, when you put something in there and close it, it will activate a 10-minute UV cleaning cycle. So there's going to be a whole bunch of UV that's being blasted and baked in there right now to clean things like your phone, your keys, your wallet, and Hyundai intends you to use that because it was something that they saw necessary in the post-COVID-19 era. I'm not making that up. That's exactly what Hyundai has intended this to be used. It's for people who are more germ conscious, and now they have an area to sanitize the things that they use every day, which you most likely should, because your phone's one of the dirtiest things you use, and you chuck it in there and it bakes away without damaging your phone or any sort of personal belongings you want to put in there, which is kind of interesting and a nice little quirk. You've also got yourself a little shelf here, which is in line with the rugged SUV vibe, and you've also got yourself an okay sized glove box, but it's not too great for storing any big items like a big water bottle, for example. You also got ambient lighting in here, which is great, and you've also got 2 wireless charging pads, which have some nice rubber pucks on them, which means your phone's not going to fly everywhere, and your passenger can wirelessly charge too, which is honestly something that a lot of manufacturers miss out on, and it's something that Tesla's been doing for a while, and it works really well, and Hyundai decided to go, hey, we're doing that too, which is great. We've also got a pretty deep glove box here with a little tray in here, which is very nice, and it's actually one of the deepest glove boxes I've ever seen. This thing is quite useful, and this little tray is also good to carry things like blueberries. You've also got a little tunnel here which has things like your 12-volt socket, but then you have 2 USB-C ports up top too, so there's no sort of lack of charging here. Additionally, you have controls to move your passenger seat here for your passenger in the rear to get more space, which is very useful, and you also have to know that you can control your rear climate controls from the front, because there is no controls for the climate controls in the rear, even though there's separate controls for the rear, which is a bit of an oversight, but at least up front, you can control the temperature and fan speed in the back. Now, this car's also fitted with Hyundai's connected services, which is called Blue Link, so you can connect your car to your phone, and that's complimentary for 5 years. Take note, Toyota, because that is a nice commitment period, especially when you buy this car. It's included in the car, and it's simply a connection to your car via your phone, so you can lock it, unlock it, check out where it is, how much fuel you have left, all that sort of stuff. And you also have an SOS button on the interior, just in case you get into an emergency, and it will call emergency services for you if it detects you've had an accident, which is a nice plus. Probably the only downside in here is that this is an $80,000 Hyundai, but we still have a manually adjustable steering column, which, yeah, just feels a little bit cheap in a car that is meant to feel really expensive. But other than that, materials in here feel really nice. There is this faux wood trim here, and there's some fake stitching on the dashboard as well, so it's meant to look nice, but when you actually really start to touch it and feel it, it does feel a little plasticky. But to be honest, all this plastic feels pretty high quality, and it's nice to engage with, and it's all well put together, so it doesn't feel cheap at all on the interior of this top trim Santa Fe. And finally, there's no shifter in the middle here because this car uses shift by wire, which is basically a glorified button to tell the transmission which way to go, which is in the form of a column mounted shifter like you'll find on pretty much every modern Hyundai, which is great because it allows you to free up the space here and creates a more open interior. So this interior is such a step up, and I think it's my favorite Hyundai interior out of every car they sell because it's just so spacious and nice up front. Now, this calligraphy model only has 2 seats in the second row. And jumping in, there's a really nice thud on the door. We have some window blinds here, really big windows which look exactly like a Land Rover Discovery's rear windows, which is a good thing, thanks to the fact it has this big window here at the back, so you're not just restricted to one window here. We have our own sunroof here at the back, but it doesn't open, so it's more of a moonroof, but the front passengers get their own sunroof, which does open. We have a little storage tray here, which opens out, and this gives you access to the glove box too, because there's a button here to open that up, which is very intuitive. So it's a nice storage solution, this center console cubby. You've got your own USB-C ports here on the seats, some more H patterns around the cabin, and these seats are also very comfortable, and they have these ratchet type armrests, and you have this really nice captain's chair experience, and it's nice and relaxing. The only downside is that these headrests are a bit too firm for my liking for a car that's meant to feel really plush, because they're just, they're comfortable, but they're just not as plush as I feel like they would be. I have no feet room underneath the seat in front of me because they have these special zero gravity seats, so I have no feet room, but I have plenty of feet room around the front. I have okay amounts of knee room, but the seat is pushed back because it's in the entry position. It will move forward a bit more, but this is sort of my driving position. I have actually really good amounts of headroom, and I really like how soft the suede headliner is too. We have cup holders in the doors. I have heated seats as well, which are 3-way adjustable in the back, and we have these hard mat pockets here, a bit like a plane. So it's actually such a beautiful second row, and these are power operated seats too, so you can move them forwards and backwards with the press of a button, and you can even raise them up a bit. So these are super comfortable. So this is exactly where you want to be for a long trip. And these seats also have ISOFIX points on them, so it's pretty easy to put car seats on them. Getting into the back is a pretty luxurious experience because with the press of a button, just one press, these seats will fold themselves out of the way electronically, which is very nice. Now, jumping into the back, as a 5'11" adult, we have our own carpet back here, so it means that we don't get this nice green carpet too dirty. It's easy to close the door from the third row. We can pull the seat back, press the button, and it will fold itself back into place, which feels very luxurious. Now we can see how much knee room we're getting. I have decent amounts of knee room, no feet room, but I have feet room around me, but I can't put my feet underneath the seat in front of me, and I have okay amounts of headroom. I can move these headrests up a little bit more, and can I move these seats back a little bit more? Now that's them in full recline. Look, it's a really good third row. This is really impressive. I hate getting the third row of most cars, especially cars like the Skoda Kodiaq, for example, that is pretty much unusable, but here, you could definitely seat 2 adults in the back for a short period of time, and they shouldn't be too cramped at all thanks to this giant space that we have with the interior being nice and boxy. We have our own air vents and we have our own USB-C ports, and for some reason I have my own AC controls in the back to control the fan speed, which is weird that the second row, which is meant to be the most luxurious row, doesn't even get that. We have nice big square windows, and I'm getting a nice amount of light from this glass roof in front of me, and we have our own reading lights too. Yeah, what a great place to be. And Hyundai claims to be the best in class third row space that you can buy for the money. And I'm honestly not denying that fact. This is really comfortable. The seats are comfortable. I have okay amounts of leg room. I don't feel cramped back here. So if you're looking for a 7-seat SUV to actually fit adults in the back every so often, this could be a great option for you. And at the back you get more boxy designs, a hidden rear wiper, which is a major plus because it looks nice and clean back here, blacked out badging, and of course, very low mounted taillights. These are the H-style pattern that we've seen from the front, except this is a common point of criticism for a lot of people, is that it looks like the lights are way too low. They could have been put horizontally or a bit higher up, and your indicators are actually way down here, which I don't think is the safest place to put them, but Hyundai insists putting them there. Another thing is that Hyundai has made the boot opening as big as possible. If I stand here, I'm gonna get well in the way. I have to walk about a meter out from the actual car, and then that's going to reveal your boot space. Now, you're not getting a lot of boot space with all 7 seats up, but you're really going to be carrying this many people and luggage around. Unless you are, then you might want to invest into a roof box. Underneath here, we have everything we need to change a spare tire, because that spare tire is underneath here. But unfortunately, there's no storage for anything else. There's some small pockets here and there, but because your battery is here in the rear, unfortunately, there's not much storage when you have all 7 seats up. You can easily throw these seats down, which is great, and you even have buttons to fold down your second row here from the back electronically. So when you have your seats up like this with the second row up, you have over 400 liters of boot space right here. It's nice and boxy, very usable, love it. If you fold those seats down in the middle, you're gonna get a total of just under 2,000 liters. So it's like 1,900 liters of boot space available in the Santa Fe. So this thing is wildly practical. It's also worth noting that these big gas struts here are huge. They are just some of the biggest struts I've seen. They're usually about half the size to prop up a boot. And that's my complaint for the rear here, is that we probably could have done with a split tailgate of sorts, or maybe being able to split the glass. That might have been a good little solution to avoid having to open this huge tailgate. But the fact it's so big makes it easy to load up this car. So the Santa Fe gets this new column-mounted shifter, which is great to use, but you really have to push down firmly on the brake to get it to recognize that you want to change gears, because sometimes when you're doing a 3-point turn, I found it to just get stuck and it just goes into neutral, and then it becomes a bit awkward because you've got to then take your foot off the brake, foot back on the brake, and then get yourself back into drive, which can take a little bit longer than the traditional shifter found in the old car. Now, the Hyundai Santa Fe is bigger in every way compared to the previous generation car, which is good for comfort. You want a longer wheelbase, you want a bigger car, and it has shorter overhangs compared to that car too. So it's actually pretty nice to ride around in. It doesn't feel at all related to the previous generation car, if I'm honest. The suspension in this thing is really comfortable, even though this is wearing big 20-inch wheels. And the steering, people have complained to be a little bit light, and I have to agree with them there, because in just normal day-to-day driving, it just feels a little bit just somewhat disconnected from the driving experience, but it's actually not too bad. And once you start tugging at the wheel, you will feel this thing tighten up and then get a bit more responsive to your inputs, which is always what you want. Braking in this thing is actually relatively smooth for a big bus. You just sort of apply the anchors and this thing glides to a stop, although it does have a tendency to sort of just rock a little bit when you go to a complete stop, which can disrupt the whole comfort factor of this car. And cornering as well, this is a big boxy SUV, but it actually corners pretty nice. Cornering in this thing doesn't disrupt the driving experience at all, and if you have to swerve for something, this feels pretty responsive, but it does feel pretty loungy, like a big SUV should. So there's no surprises in the driving experience. But to be honest, one of the best things about this car is its 1.6 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder paired up to that electric motor and battery, meaning that we're driving in a hybrid, producing a combined output of 172 kilowatts and 367 newton meters of torque. And that means we get okay acceleration, and the benefit of having these paddles on the steering wheel is that we can actually engage regen braking. So I can lift off the accelerator and feed energy back into the battery to try and get this car working into EV mode as frequently as possible. But it doesn't have a dedicated EV mode button like a Toyota does, which I find a bit frustrating because I want to utilize all this battery that I have when I want to, but instead the car is making that decision for you. Now we have some drive modes here, and when you go in from Eco into Sport, because there's only two main drive modes and you have a custom My Drive mode, the paddles actually change into gear changing paddles, which is a bit more engaging and a bit more fun, and you get a bit more spice out of this thing. But let me remind you that the powertrain that this is using is also used in the Hyundai Tucson with no power changes. So that does mean that we're in a heavier, bigger car, and that does mean that our power to weight ratio is around 80 kilowatts per ton, which isn't a lot. So this isn't a very fast family car. But the added benefit of being a hybrid is the fact it's actually quite economical. Over nearly 200 kilometers of driving, I've seen a combined figure of around 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's pretty decent for a car that's in bumper to bumper traffic and driving around town. But again, it's not the best figure possible. I think to see that figure come down a little bit lower would be great, and I do think the added benefit of being able to select EV mode would definitely help there. Now, annoyingly, this does have some driver aids on it that aren't particularly helpful. It has the speed warning that hasn't been updated for this model yet. On the new Tucson, you can simply press and hold the mute button and it will disengage that feature for you, which is great. And you have to do that every time you hop in the car, but at least it's a one button press on the steering wheel. But here in this car, you still have to go through the menu screens to be able to turn that feature off, because it will complain at you if you're driving 1 kilometer over the speed limit. And it's a common complaint I've had with a lot of Hyundais that have implemented this feature into their car. And it's fine because the simple solution is to not speed. But the problem is that this car doesn't read speed signs accurately all the time. So that feature can be a bit redundant and actually quite annoying. Additionally, this has a driver attention warning system, which is absolutely useless because it wants you to keep your eyes on the road, which is great. But if you want to use any of the features you paid for in your Hyundai Santa Fe, it will scream at you telling you that you're looking away from the road, even if you're glancing to actually use controls that are intended to be used while you're driving. So I do think that feature is redundant, and it makes me want to break off that little plastic piece that's in front of me because I just don't think it works as well as Hyundai would hope. But of course, you can turn off that driver attention feature, which is great, but you have to do that every time through the screen, every time you turn this car back on after turning it off. Again, a bit annoying. But I have to hand it to Hyundai, and they're listening to people's feedback, and they actually are making meaningful improvements to hopefully make these safety features more useful and less annoying. So it is annoying right now, but I trust Hyundai to fix that in the near future. Now, this car uses a e-torque vectoring system through its hybrid system, which is very interesting because it's trying to reduce any sort of wheel spin when you're doing some hard cornering using the electric motor. So that is a pretty cool feature and an added benefit of having a hybrid Santa Fe compared to something like the prehistoric petrol V6 model. And to be honest, you're not really going to feel that working all the time, but it does give you a bit more grip when you're going through some slippery corners. And look, for similar money compared to something like a Kia Sorento, which I think is one of the best 7-seaters you can buy when it comes to value for money, this definitely outdoes it in pretty much every single way. And this is possibly my favorite 7-seat SUV, or in this configuration, a 6-seater SUV that you can buy for your money. You can't really beat it on features. It's got good fuel economy, it's safe, it's also comfortable, has pretty much every creature comfort you could imagine. As a complete package, it's hard to beat. Hyundai knows that, and this is why I think it's honestly one of the best family SUVs you can go out and buy right now. If I'm actually going to critique this thing, I think its safety systems are still too intrusive. I don't think it's as fuel efficient as it could be, and that tailgate is just way too massive for some people in their tight garages. So if Hyundai could iron out those in a facelift, then it definitely could be close to being the perfect family SUV of this size. And so that brings up my question. How hurt was Hyundai that they had to release this and absolutely embarrass the previous generation Santa Fe?